Okay, the glue is dried enough that I put in these holes that I can drop the servo in, and the servo gear here on the servo is closest to the top of the front of the wing. That still gives me plenty of room if I take a push rod and sort of measure where it'll fall. This end of the push rod is threaded, so it'll be down here. This end of the push rod will be up there, and there'll be plenty of room for the quick connect and the clevis. So what I need to do now is connect the arm and the quick connect. So I've got my arm, and these quick connects are just slightly over 1/16 of an inch. So I'll measure it in millimeters, and it's 1.55 millimeters, and so 1/16 of an inch drill bit will do the trick to make sure that the hole in the arm will fit nicely in the pin on the quick connect will fit nicely into the servo arm. So the 1/16 drill bit is turn the thing back on here. It's 1.55 for the 16th, and this is 1.55 for the 16th. So it's a perfect size to drill the pilot hole. Doesn't need to be loose, doesn't need to be tight, and so opening that arm up makes it easy to put that quick connect in. Okay, so now this single arm on this servo has, as I said, a little gear rack here, and that's so that this doesn't slip back and forth. When you tighten it down, it won't move anywhere. So that means that the quick connect needs to be on top with that rough side on the bottom. And then I'll take a one of the white plastic connectors, and there you can see the white plastic connector holding the quick connect on. So then I'm going to stop for a minute. I centered that servo, I didn't center this servo, so let me stop for a second and center that servo. Okay, I'm back, and I centered the servo by attaching the servo wire to the aileron channel, plugging the battery in, and while the radio was on, and that centers the servo. So the arm should be to the outside of the for the wingtip. So I want to put the holder for the arm right there, and that's at pretty much 90 degrees, and then I'll attach the screw. I'm not sure exactly where the how much distance I want from the center of the servo to the end of the arm. I put the quick connect on the last hole, but because this arm can slide back and forth, you can have any distance between the center of the servo and out. I'm going to tighten that up. I'm going to check the manual a second, be right back. I think it gives me a recommendation. Hold on. Okay, I couldn't find anything in the manual other than the fact that it shows that the control horn ought to be in line a 1/4 inch away from this side of the servo. So I put the quick connect 1/4 inch away from that side of the servo. It's actually about 5/8 out from the center. So there's the servo in. We'll go ahead and screw the 4 screws in, and I'll be right back. You don't need to see me how to do that. Okay, the servo screws are in. You don't tighten them down a whole lot. You want to mash the grommet just enough to make sure it stays in place and doesn't move. It's not going anywhere for the kind of airplane we're flying. So what I'm going to do here is measure a 1/4 inch away there, and a 1/4 inch away there, come down here and measure a 1/4 inch near the aileron. So that's going to be the center line of the control horn. So these control horns aren't the easiest thing to put in, but they're not so bad either. Okay, so they consist of the control horn and the keeper that goes on the back, and 4 tiny little hex head screws. Hex head screws are nice. One, because they're not Phillips and doesn't slip, and 2 is that they are long enough to get all the way through. Sometimes I even put a nut on the other side if it's sticking out too much. So I'm going to trim the plastic off of this. Be right back. Okay, so trim the plastic off the control horn. So now what I'm going to do is make sure that the holes in the control horn, those holes in the control horn there, are right in the middle between, right where the gap is between the aileron and the wing. And I'm going to line that up with my 1/4 inch mark, and I'm going to mark a hole on that side and make sure it stays put. And looks good. Mark a hole on this side. Okay, those 2 holes look pretty good. And so now what I got to do is drill a hole through that. That's the size of that screw. And I'm going to guess that that is a 2mm screw, but let's find out. 2.13, so it's slightly oversized 2mm screw. And in inches, that's 5/64. Okay. So I'm going to get a 5/64 drill bit and drill as straight as I can through that side, so that when it gets over to this side, the keeper will actually be in the right spot. That's the tricky part. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back, and with a little bit of trial and error, what I had to do was take my pin vise and drill a small hole to make sure I was in the right location, so that the side with the hex head over here came out on this side at the right point. And the pin vise missed the first time, got it right the second time, and then the screw followed it. The other thing I found is that at this part of the servo, this part of the the aileron is extra thick, so I got a 256 size hex bolt that is 1 inch long. I'm sorry, that's 3/4 inch long versus the ones that came with it was the 1/2 inch. So the extra 1/4 inch allowed me to penetrate through. So I'm going to put one nut on the top of that to make sure it all stays in place. So that's in place. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. The control arm is in place finally, and it should work well. It is hard to get a straight through when you got two angles on either side of the aileron. So I've got my quick connect and my push rod. I guess before I put that on, I should go ahead and put the clevis on. So I'm going to, before I put the clevis on, I'm going to put a 256 size nut. And if you don't own a collection of nuts like I do, you can buy the 256 nuts, a little pack 8 at a time for about $2. But I've got a large collection of nuts. You know, sometimes you just feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. So that little nut on the back of the clevis will hold it in place, and later on I will put a drop of thread lock on there. I do all my thread locking at the end when everything's locked down, ready to be locked down. Okay. So that servo arm is centered enough. I will center the servo by pinching it on this end, and then I can I'll be back in a minute with a screwdriver. Okay, got a regular flat blade screwdriver. I'm going to use that to open up the clevis, and I'm going to put it on the second hole from the top. Yep. Let's see. There are 5 holes in this control arm, and I'm the second down from the top. That's pretty good. All right. So now that that's in place, and I forgot something. I'll be back in a minute. I forgot to put the keeper on. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back, and I put the keeper on the both clevises so I don't forget it on the other wing. So the keeper's on, the clevis is back on the push rod. Now the arm, it was supposed to be centered. I probably have moved it a little, but that's okay. I'm not going to lock it all down. But what I am going to do is I pretty much know where that servo should be, and I'm going to hold this here. That's nice and tight. Take my little bolt that goes in the top of the quick connect, and the quick connect uses a 3/32. So I've got one handy right here. So 3/30. That's the other thing I like about these quick connects. Some of them don't have hex head drive. You can't use a hex head driver. They want you to use a Phillips, which to me isn't good enough. You're trying to tighten stuff down. Okay, so I'm going to do this one kind of finger tight, not a whole lot of tight, and that servo is in place. And I've also taped this over here so I didn't lose it. Thank you, and now I'll do the second wing off camera.